Founder, Mr. Shiv Nadar, Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, Ms. Vanita Narayan, distinguished guests, faculty, parents, and students. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here today. And first of all, my congratulations to all of you who are receiving degrees today. And of course, congratulations to the teachers, family and friends who have invested so much in you and supported you and brought you to this day. Now, I know you're eager to get your degrees, but unfortunately, you first have to hear out my speech. Convocation speeches are meant to give you one last set of issues to ponder on before you're let loose on the world. Following such a fantastic speech as Ms. Narayan's, I'll add one more life lesson to hers, which is play to your strengths. So rather than speaking about management lessons, which I think she's done a wonderful job, I will talk about two issues. First, an economic point deriving from my training as an economist, and then a point about private universities deriving from my work at one for over 20 years. I embark on this talk comforted by the knowledge that the bar for convocation speeches is low. As Ms. Narayan said, most people don't attend their convocation. But even if you attend, if you remember a word I say a few years from now, I will have surpassed the average convocation speaker. Most people don't remember who spoke at their convocation, let alone what they said. So first, the economic point, and to all the TV cameras out there, it's not about interest rates. In a very interesting recent book, Harvard philosopher Michael Sandel points to the range of things that money can buy in modern society. And he seems angry at the growing dominance of the market. He worries about the corrupting nature of some exchanges as they're monetized, but also questions their effectiveness, and I think questions very effectively. For instance, do kids really develop a love of reading if they're bribed to read books? He's also concerned about unequal access to money, which makes trades using money inherently unequal. More generally, Sandel fears that the expansion of anonymous monetary exchange breaks down social cohesion and argues for reducing money's role in society. Now, concerns that he's expressed have been expressed time and again over history, but he offers a number of interesting new examples, and I want to pose a couple to you to reflect on. For instance, some companies, certainly not IBM, pay the unemployed to stand in line for free public tickets to congressional hearings in the United States. You know, Congress has hearings, people go and testify before them, there are tickets to those hearings, they're given away on a first-come, first-served basis, people pay them to stand in line. Then they sell the tickets to lobbyists and corporate lawyers who have a business interest in the hearing but are too busy to stand in line. Now, clearly, public hearings are an important element of participatory democracy. All citizens should have equal access. So selling access seems to be a perversion of democratic principles, and he makes this point repeatedly. But is it? The fundamental problem here is scarcity. We cannot accommodate everyone in the room who might have an interest in a particularly important hearing. So we have to sell entry. We can either allow people to use their time to bid for seats, the one who stands the longest and therefore spends the most time wins the seat, or we can auction the seats for money. The former seems fairer because all citizens seemingly start with equal endowments of time. We all start with 24 hours in a day. And therefore, it seems the right thing to do. But is it? Do we all start with 24 hours in a day? How about a single mother with a high-pressure job and 3 young children? Is she as equally endowed as you will be once you finished your degree and are on summer vacation? I presume you get a little bit of vacation before going for a job. Are you in the same position? And is society better off if she, the chief legal counsel in a large corporation, spends much of her time standing in line for a hearing? So, whether it's better to sell entry tickets for time or for money, thus depends on what we hope to achieve as a society. If we want to increase society's productive efficiency, people's willingness to pay for tickets with money is a reasonable indicator of how much they will gain if they have access to the hearing. Auctioning seats for money makes sense then. The lawyer contributes more to society by preparing briefs than standing in line. On the other hand, if it's important that young, impressionable citizens see how the democracy works, if it's important that we build social solidarity by making corporate executives stand in line with jobless teenagers, perhaps we should force people to bid with their time by standing in line and make entry tickets non-transferable. And if we think both objectives should play some role, perhaps we should turn a blind eye to some operators hiring those with spare time to stand in line in lieu of busy lawyers, so long as they don't corner all the seats. Let me take another example, the sale of human organs. Another example that Sandel worries about. Something seems wrong when a lung or a kidney is sold for money. It happens in our society, as we know. However, we celebrate the kindness of a stranger who donates a kidney to a young child. So clearly it's not the transfer of the organ itself that outrages us. We don't think the donor is misinformed about the value of their kidney or is being fooled into parting with it. Nor do I think we have scruples nor do I think we have concerns about the scruples of the person selling the organ. After all, they're parting with something that is very dear to them, and what they're doing is irreversible. So they're parting with something that most of us would not want to part with at the price that they're being offered. So why are we so uncomfortable with this sale? I think part of our discomfort with the sale of organs and why it's banned in a number of countries has to do with the circumstances in which the transaction takes place. What kind of society do we live in if people have to sell their organs to survive? Of course, a ban on organ sales may make us feel better, but we must also ask, does it really make society better off? Possibly, if the ban makes society work harder to make sure people are never driven into the circumstances that would force them to contemplate a sale. If we can help people and help them not get into this situation. But possibly the ban makes things worse if it allows society to turn its back on the underlying problem, either moving the trade underground or forcing people in those circumstances to resort to worse remedies. I also think part of our unease with these kinds of exchanges is that it is perceived as an unequal exchange. The seller is giving up a part of her body in an irreversible transaction. The buyer is giving up only money, perhaps earned on a lucky stock trade, through corruption, or through an overpaid job. If that money was earned by selling a portion of a lung, or by painful savings accumulated after years of backbreaking work, we might consider the exchange more equal. But the central virtue of money is precisely its anonymity. We need know nothing about the rupee we get to be able to use it. But because money's anonymity obscures its provenance, it may be socially less acceptable as a medium of exchange for some objects. So, the broader point I'm trying to make is we need to think about these things. But we shouldn't move too quickly, as Professor Sandel does, to prescribe a ban on such transactions. When the real concern seems to be not so much about the transaction being done for money, but about where money came from, about the distribution of money. There are many virtues to the anonymity associated with money that Sandel complains about. In a free market, all it takes to buy what you want is money. You don't need a pedigree, you don't need a great family history, you don't need the right table manners or the right fashionable clothing. You just walk into a shop, put up your money and buy what you want. It's because money has no odor, because it's the great equalizer, that so many people across history have been able to acquire resources and invest them to make the world that we live in. Indeed, in our own country, making it easy for Dalits to start businesses may do much more for their social status, as Devesh Kapoor from the University of Pennsylvania suggests, because money empowers them much more than many other forms of affirmative action. So rather than prohibiting the use of money and wealth, perhaps it's better to think about increasing society's tolerance for its use. So I'm going to derive some lessons from this, but before I talk about what you can take away, let me caution you about questioning everything, including my interpretation of Sandel, because only with questioning comes clarity. But then, if you accept my interpretation, let me suggest there's a strong link between society's support for free markets, for monetary exchange, and the fairness with which wealth and opportunity is distributed among the population. Societies that are fairly equal, where opportunity is well distributed, tend to be better at supporting free markets. Unfortunately, in our times, inequality between countries is diminishing, that's a good part, but inequality within countries is increasing. Today, even well-run market economies seem to be favoring those who already have plenty. In part, this is because skills and capabilities have become much more important in the well-paid jobs that we heard about, and those born in good circumstances have a much better chance at acquiring those jobs. The winner-take-all nature of many occupations, where a few of the most capable take most of the income. Think about making apps for the cell phone. Think about architecture. Think about acting. In all these professions, it's not the average worker who gets a lot of money. It's people who are winners in this. And there are many professions which are becoming winner-take-all professions. And winner-take-all professions accentuate the value of the kind of education that you have, the benefit, therefore, of having early childhood preparation, the schools that you went to, the benefit of being born to the right parents, the benefit of being born in the right community. Income inequality is on the rise, and we need to think about how to improve distribution, how to restore faith in markets, and this is something that Vanita also talked about. I think the answer to this is universities like this. We have to work to provide more effective access to quality schooling and healthcare for all. We have to create a non-discriminating job market with many jobs, equal opportunities for further advancement, regardless of gender, race, or background. All this will increase the perceived legitimacy of wealth and society's willingness to broaden the areas where it can be spent. Thoughtful philanthropy, as reflected in the founding of the school, can further enhance society's acceptance of great wealth. As you embark on careers that are likely to be very successful, I think the way you create and earn wealth and the way you spend will also help strengthen, if done in the right way, will help strengthen tolerance for markets and opportunity in this country. Moreover, if you do it in the right way, not only will your work be more enjoyable, but you'll strengthen the economic freedoms that we take for granted. So that's my economic point. Let me briefly give you my point about private education, and then I'll conclude. So just a little way away from your degree. Point about private education is drawing on this economic point. Private education across the world is getting expensive, especially in high-quality research universities. And it's getting more and more expensive because the critical resource, which is all these brilliant professors who teach you, are in extremely short supply. So two solutions have been proposed to this problem. One is technology. Why not have the best professors beam lectures at thousands of students over the net, the MOOC option? Problem is that while such classes seem theoretically very attractive, completion rates are abysmal in the classes that have taken off so far. Perhaps many of us who take such courses don't finish them for the same reasons we don't take a course syllabus here, go to the library, read all the books that are required, and come back and write the exam. There simply are too many distractions in life to be able to do this with discipline. Similarly, too many distractions to be able to complete a course on the internet. Online courses still need to figure out not just how to get student commitment, but also to provide the learning support that a university community and environment offers. The second possibility, which is we have high-priced research professors teaching you, let's dispense with research and have teachers that do not do research. Now, this seems sacrilege here because the Vice-Chancellor, the Chancellor all talked about the importance of research. But why do we need teachers who have PhDs? Because there are so many teachers who have masters, etc., who could be used to teach our students. Why don't we go there? Well, it turns out in a fairly competitive market like the United States, students prefer to get degrees from research universities, even though there's so many teaching colleges available, and even though they're going for their undergraduate where students do little research. That's unlike Shiv Nadar University where you have your OUR program. Many undergrad universities, they don't do research, and yet they prefer going to a research university. Let me conjecture why. It's not that research professors know more about the basic material that has to be taught. We're often working on arcane issues where we're very far from the basic textbooks. Neither does research necessarily make you a good teacher. Sometimes understanding the material at a really deep level makes the basic stuff much more difficult to explain. We don't understand really well what you don't know if we know too much. So I do think there's another explanation, however, which is that good research requires curiosity. Almost all researchers remain curious through their lives and constantly update their teaching material to reflect developments in the field. So I would conjecture, though I have no proof, this is why teaching at research universities is on average, again, this is on average, not a blanket statement, is on average preferred to teaching at teaching colleges. You're taught much more up-to-date, challenging material in the research university. Bottom line is that I don't see an easy answer to bringing down the cost of education at high-quality research universities. They will remain expensive for a while until certainly we learn to combine technology and people better. And therefore, given my first point that we need to make access to such high-quality education much wider, much more freely available, we have to find other ways to make degrees affordable. Now, one part which I look after in this country at a broad level is student loans. But we have to be careful that student loans are repaid in full by those who have the means, while at the same time the student loans are forgiving to those who fall on bad times or those who take low-paying public service jobs. We have to have a more contingent student loan scheme. We certainly, along with the government, are working on that. But we also have to make sure that unscrupulous schools do not prey on uninformed students, leaving them with high debt and useless degrees. There's a student loan problem in the United States. We shouldn't recreate the same problem in India. A second part of the solution is what drives this school, philanthropy, not just by the founders, but by successful students from a university. Giving back to the university is a way of subsidizing the costs of future generations, acknowledging the subsidies you received from the founders when you got your degree. I hope we develop a strong culture of alumni giving in India. Now, that concludes my second point, which means I'm winding up for the end. You have been very patient in listening to me. Let me therefore conclude. India is changing. I talk about India's growth as I have no problem with India's growth. It's great. Could be better. And that's my point. I think the best is yet to come. I think India, the best is yet to come. You will be part of that best. You will help. You will help shape our country and also the world, as well as your place in it. By all means, set yourself ambitious goals, but remember, as your teachers have already told you, and as our culture suggests, the achievement of narrow personal goals, greater wealth, rapid promotion, or increasing fame rarely brings you anything other than brief pleasure. I don't claim to know the secret of happiness, but this seems obvious. If you like the journey, if you get pleasure from the work you do, it matters far less when, or indeed whether, you reach the destination. You have far more control over the journey you choose, as Ms. Narayan also told you. And often the most enjoyable journeys are those where your goals are broader and where you take others with you, especially others who could not make it without your help. In doing so, you'll make this world a better and a more stable place. Thank you. I wish you good luck in your future endeavors. I hope that